Dear students, in your syllabus there is a module on paleobotany. You have to study it in brief. So I am trying to deliver you a small half of your paleobotany syllabus. So let us pass on to the topic. You know what is paleobotany? Paleobotany is the study of plant fossils. So many million years back, many of our plants and animals lived in the earth became fossils. And there are two different groups, extinct and extant. The species of plants and animals that no longer exist now is called as extinct, and those which are extinct exist at present, you can call it as extant. Then it is very difficult to carry out the fossil study. It may be fossilized in different forms. I hope all of you study the different fossilization methods. And small part of the plant like leaf, fruit, flowers, etc. may be fossilized. So once a paleontologist, a scientist work, if he is getting a small half of the leaf, he given it a name. Then in the later studies, if he is getting another stem, he given sometimes another name. So there is a difficulty while studying fossils. So there are different terms assigned. So a fossil cannot be assigned to any genera. Then in such cases, you can call it as a organ genus. Similarly, if it is not assigned to a family, you can place them into a form genus. In India, there is institute to study paleobotany, that is Birbal Sahni Institute of Paleobotany. So just you can look into the different techniques of fossilization, how fossils are appeared in our earth. It may be impressions, that is the imprints of plant and animal parts. So it's actually an imprint. Leaves are commonly formed like this in the form of impressions. So you can study the external features of the plant. Then carbonization, carbon films, thin coating of carbon on rocks. You can see like this. And also compression. So they may be compressed in a particular mud, soil, rock, etc. So different forms. Then some other forms like cast, petrifaction, etc. are also there. Then you can see some pictures. This is a petrified forest of National Park USA, Yellowstone National Park in USA. Its picture you can see. The second one is the tree trunk of that is fossilized. Then a vertical succession of forest fossilized. Then some of the another important fossils, they are usually occur in trapped condition. You may be heard about a mammoth. So that's a most perfect complete fossil that may be trapped in ice or resin or etc. While using these organisms or using these fossil records, you can trace out the evolutionary background. Then some of our other lower groups like algae, bryophytes, etc. are also become fossilized. You may be studied about planktons, algae, different forms of algae, the dinoflagellates, coccolith, diatoms, etc. These also can be fossilized. Then what is the significance of study of fossils? So it helps us to study dating of rocks, chronological sequence of events that taken place in our history of earth history. And it also provide the details regarding the particular environment and ecosystem that prevailed in that time. And also we will get details of biodiversity, the changes and the climatic changes. And also another very significant part is the evidence for evolution of life. What is the condition of land and sea in that time, etc. So this is a very significant in our day-to-day studies. It helps us a lot to trace back. So now let us pass on to two genera that is given in your syllabus. It detailed study is required. So first one is Rhynia. So Rhynia is a fossilized pteridophyte. It is a primitive pteridophyte group, and Rhynia occur in the first means in the pteridophytic conditions, it is the Paleozoic era. So let us pass on to its structure and some of its anatomical and morphological structure. So Rhynia is a herbaceous plant. Its body part is differentiated into an underground rhizome and aerial shoots. Then in case roots are absent, but in some cases you can see the small rootlets, that is rhizoids, arises from its rhizome. Then its aerial shoots are leafless, no leaf, only branch, that is cylindrical. It is dichotomously branched. While you hearing the name Rhynia, in your mind the picture of a dichotomous branching. The tip of aerial branch usually bear terminal sporangium also. You can see the picture. This is the photograph of Rhynia. Here you can see it is all portions labeled. The lowermost part is the rhizome, like our ginger. Then from which small roots arises, that is known rhizoids. Then the aerial dichotomously branched part, that is the aerial shoot. Aerial shoot, at its apex you can see the sporangium. So this picture always keep in mind while discussing about the structure of Rhynia. Then the TS or transverse section, when you take the section of aerial shoot and rhizome, it is divided into, while observing under microscope you can see there are three important parts: epidermis, cortex and stele. You know what is an epidermis? This is outermost covering. In Rhynia it is 1 cell thick. It is covered with a cuticle and also having interrupted with some stomata also. Then second half is the cortex, that is broad one. It again subdivided into outer cortex and inner cortex. So outer cortex is 1 to 4 cell thick, thin walled and no intercellular space, means cells are tightly packed. Then inner cortex is having large intercellular space and also chloroplast, means the shoot is photosynthetic. Then next comes the endodermis and pericycle. In the case of our dicot and other plant groups that you already studied, but you have to remember here endodermis and pericycles are totally absent. So epidermis, cortex, now pass on to the stele or vascular region. Then center of the shoot, that is completely occupied by stele. It is protostele, or you can call haplostele, because in pteridophytes there are different types of stellar evolution you can see. Protostele is the basic type. At the center xylem surrounded by phloem. Xylem having tracheids and phloem having no sieve plates. This is the anatomy. You can see here centermost portion is a xylem. The dark colored cells, it's marked as xylem, surrounded by phloem. Then loosely arranged inner cortex, tightly packed outer cortex, then epidermis covered with cuticle, and in between the gap is known as stomata. Now, reproductive part of the Rhynia, it is a sporangia. You have already seen the picture that sporangia is present at the apex of the aerial branches, dichotomous branches. Each sporangium is oval, somewhat cylindrical structure, and its longitudinal structure, you can see a thick walled outer covering of, and also cuticularized epidermis, and also 3 cells thick middle layers. So the wall is different layered, outermost is thick walled, and then later 3 celled layers. The inner layer is the tapetum, that's a nutritive part of the wall. Then the sporangial cavity, which having no sterile structure, it freely contains the spores only. The spores are of 60 micrometer in diameter. It is homosporous, means only one type of spore is present in Rhynia. This is a photograph regarding the Rhynia sporangium. The first one is a fossilized condition. You can see the section of sporangia in the second half, the covers of the sporangial wall, then spore tetrads, etc. Then different layers like outer wall, middle wall and tapetum are marked there. Then lower sides you can see the spores, tetrad and single spores. So this is about Rhynia. So in brief, once again I summarize. Rhynia belongs to pteridophytean fossil. It's a primitive type of fossil. It is having an aerial shoot dichotomously branched. At its apex contains sporangia, then basal rhizomatous stem and having small rhizoids. Then anatomy differentiated into epidermis, cortex and stele. Cortex having outer cortex and inner cortex. Stele having protostelic condition. No endodermis, no pericycle. Sporangia at the apex of the aerial shoot. It is also three-walled condition, and its center homosporous condition, only one type of spores present, and there is no sterile tissue inside the sporangia. Okay. Now, next fossil type is Lepidodendron. This also belongs to the same group, Pteridophyte. Then Lepidodendron is observed in the Devonian period. You maybe know about the geological time period, and these are arborescent plants, aerial plants, and it's having observed in coal deposits, swamp forest of Carboniferous period, and you can see it is a large fossil type. This is a picture of Lepidodendron. So its part like rootlets, stem and leaf are obtained in different time, and finally the paleontologists they reconstructed, and the final form is like this. Then it's a large tree of 50 to 60 meter tall and having a thick prominent trunk. That trunk is highly thick, 35 meter in height. Then dichotomous branches and leaves are observed, and that is forming and appear like a crown. Then main axis develop branches also, and also you can see the large number of foliage leaves. Another important feature is its root system having a special name, that is Stigmarian root system. Usually this question may be asked for multiple choice and also short answer question. So basal branches are highly branched. That root is known as Stigmarian root system. All lepidodendrons root is underground, and in these cases the stigmaria spread widely spread branched condition, and the small branches are known as Stigmarian rootlets. This is a picture of Stigmarian rootlets. First one is the diagrammatic sketch, second one is the photograph of the fossil obtained from Scotland. 350 million years old fossil. Its Stigmarian root is observed. Then about its stem, the form genus, stem is a form genus, and it has been reported as cast or compression. You know, cast and compression is a type of fossilization. Then trunk is attained a height of 115 feet, means approximately 35 meter in height, and numerous leaf cushions on the stem surface. You can see leaf scars or leaf cushions observed on the stem surface. And after secondary growth, you can see the periderms. They composed of secondary cortex in the massive volume of the stem. And tracheids are also having scalariform thickenings. Then periderm provided mechanical support to stem and branch, means secondary growth is prominent. Then its anatomy, you can see outer cortex, periderm followed by outer cortex, bearing leaf cushion. Then middle cortex containing parenchyma cells. Then inner cortex also parenchyma cells. Inner cortex having some secretory cells also. So outer, middle and narrow inner cortex. Then outermost is periderm. The leaf is microphyllous, means small leaves. Ligulate leaves are present, and its particular shape known as linear or awl shape. Then they are deciduous, means they will fall off after a particular time, and have swollen leaf base, that is photosynthetic in condition. Then that all about the vegetative part, stem and leaf. Then reproductive structure, it is bisporangiate cone, and it is also microsporangia and megasporangia, that is bisporangiate, and known as flamingatus. and flamingitis bones terminally. So what is flamingitis? It's a term. Then sporophylls are arranged in a central axis. There are two types, microsporophyle and megasporophyle. Microsporophyle bear microsporangia, megasporophyle bear megasporangia. Micro is male, mega means female. This is a picture of the sporophyll, flamingitis cone. You can see the ligules. At the base of ligule, sporophylls are arranged. Megasporangium and microsporangium. Mega at the lower portion of the cone, micro at the upper portion of the cone. That's why two types are present. That's all about lepidodendron. So lepidodendron is a characteristic feature is it's a stigmarian rootlets, large trees, and also each part in different times occurred. Highly branched stem, aerial branches. Stem is having leaf scars and a cushion. Secondary thickening, periderm, outer cortex, inner cortex. Then also having specialized reproductive part, megasporangia and microsporangia. That's all regarding the structure of lepidodendron. I hope you enjoyed well. Thank you.